Today I'm going to talk to you about the alder. The alnus, A-L-N-U-S, is the Latin, just means alder. Right. Now the alder is a pioneer of trees, and really I should have talked about them first. They're also the most utilitarian of trees, with three major uses. Now the tree behind me is an Alder orientalis, related to the Italian alder, which I'll show you in a minute. Here are some of the leaves of the alder. As you can see, they're quite round on this one. This is the orientalis version. And there you can see the catkins and the female sort of cone-like thing that has the seeds in. Now, the catkin sort of makes them look like a birch tree. And in fact, they are related to the Betuliaceae family, but they have something that separates them from the birch, which is their ability to fix nitrogen in their roots, which makes them a very useful pioneering tree. Now, here is the common alder, or alternatively named the black alder, Latin name Alnus glutinosa. Why? Because the new shoots are sticky, glutinous. And over there, that taller one, that's an Italian alder, Alnus cordata. And this tree, with some of these trees, provided the piles, the wooden piles on which Venice was built on. Because the wood, when it's in water, doesn't rot. That's their second useful property. Now, I planted these alders before I put in the pond, and I built the pond around the alders, but it was quite wet, and that's why I put the pond here. Now, they're a pioneer tree, as I said. They'll grow on landslip gullies the first. And as you can see over there, they've sprouted themselves from the seeds, because there's millions of seeds in those capsules I showed you. And the wind blows them, or they actually get drifted by the water, and they crop up on banks. So they've got an amazing ability to procreate along riverbanks and gullies. A pioneer of trees. Now, the alder is deciduous. It can be near enough semi-evergreen. Now, as you can see, the leaves on this alder are very green, and on this one, yet over there, the leaves are red. So the alder down here in New Zealand retains its leaves long after other deciduous trees have dropped them. It's actually very useful for them round here, because they then grow when there's actually rainfall. Because at the moment in New Zealand, where I live, in the Wairarapa, it's very dry immediately after Christmas in high summer, and starts to rain in autumn. So it's useful to keep your leaves so it can keep growing. Now, the alder is a northern hemisphere tree, mainly because there are two varieties that have extended through Central America and down the Andes mountains in South America. This one here is Alnus rubra, otherwise known as the red alder, which is from America, California, the west coast, and it's the tallest of the alders. And then, like the other alders, it likes damp soil, and it is yet another pioneer of trees, and it is probably the most stately of the alders. This is another Italian alder, one of the first ones I planted, probably about 17 years old. It was reasonably tall when I bought it. The Italian alder is a little bit more stately than the common alder, and seems to suit New Zealand conditions quite well. I said there was three uses. One was the nitrogen fixing through their root these fungi and the root nodules. It's a symbiotic relationship whereby the tree gets the nitrogen to help growth, and the tree gives it the sugars that helps the fungus grow. And there are nodules in the roots. The second one was the actual wood itself from the alder, which is useful for piles in water, as I mentioned, Venice. And the third use is actually when you make charcoal of it. It used to make amazing gunpowder. And I'm going to add a fourth use, which is that the alder is a good shelter belt tree and a nurse tree, useful for horticulture. And this is why I planted them here, to provide a windbreak for my walnut trees over there. Very good in east-west shelter belts because they're deciduous, so they still provide light in winter. I'll wander off now and show you a variant of the common alder, which is quite interesting. Before that, I'll just show you this Italian alder. Now, I mentioned that they like moist soil, which is moister up there than it is down here. I've got irrigation, but you can see this tree hasn't grown very well. They need moist soil, so don't use them as a shelter belt if it's quite dry. And it seems to me a lot of people around here do use them as shelter belts, and it's too dry for them, so they don't provide much shelter. Now, people I show around the property, usually when they see this one, like the leaves. This is a variant of the common alder, and it's got finely serrated leaves. Let's go and have a look at some. There we are. Find a leaf. There's one. So that's related to the common alder, but it's got fine leaves. Alders imperialis, a nice variant to have in your arboretum. So there we have it, the alder. I've got three varieties and 2 variants of them. There's 25 in total, mainly trees, some shrubs, and I'd say a much underrated tree. Now, if you're planting a new plot of land and it's got some moist areas, put in some alders first. They'll thrive, and the good thing is they'll improve the soil too. A win-win. There we are, the alder.